Welcome to the Hobby Jogger Podcast, where elite athletes and ham and eggers lace up their stories. We explore the common ground that running creates, from the world-class runner to the hobbyist hitting the pavement, trail, or treadmill. Expect a blend of inspiration, laughter, and the shared joy that makes every step count. Join us on this journey where every run is a story worth sharing. This episode is brought to you by the Aid Station in Worcester, Ohio. Shop where the experts are. Shop where you know you're getting in-depth product knowledge. Shop at the Aid Station. Welcome to this episode of the Hobby Jogger. I am your co-host, Casey Koza, once again joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Myers. Rob, you got a new setup over there. It seems to be working pretty well. How's it going?
I do. Yeah, I finally broke down and bought a new laptop, got a new mic. We don't have the budget, so it's coming out of my pocket, but I figure I need to upgrade, support the channel.
Absolutely. And it does. Audio sounds great. Today, we're joined by a returning guest. She is no longer the only author to have been on the show since Andy Glaze has released a book. But once again, bringing back the author of Boston Bound, Elizabeth Clore. And we're going to go over some race day insights we did with WeViews. Elizabeth, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Speaking of Boston Bound, I know I mentioned to you this beforehand, but I got to see you at Boston. You were on my tracker. Boston does a great job with the tracker. It's very accurate. Missed some people maybe that I should have seen that I know very well in real life, but I did manage to see you, Elizabeth, so that was awesome. We did cheer for you, so I'm sure you didn't hear us because we were towards the finish line.
In the zone, but thank you so much. I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome to see you out there. And Rob, I look forward to seeing you out at Boston next year, maybe.
Yeah, it's on the list. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth, the reason you're here is we recently did a campaign with WeViews. We called it the Race Day Insights is what it is. And we got a lot of respondents, 252, which is a lot of data to go through, which is awesome. So thank you, everyone who responded. We certainly appreciate that because in a data-driven world, obviously, Elizabeth, the more data you get, the better it is, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and I know a few things jumped out to me when I was reading through it, but we'll take it from the start. And just the people who took the survey. I was really surprised by this. The Boston Marathon was the number one respondent for the marathon, so, which I guess with your audience is not a surprise, being the author of Boston Bound. But yeah, I kind of thought it might have been, New York or maybe a marathon that's a little bit easier to get into that isn't, so time dependent. What did you think?
I mean, I think it was probably Boston just because of the timing of it. I mean, if you had done the same survey in like June or July, people probably would not have said Boston. But if you're asking them what they're training for, and that's the next big one that's coming up, I don't think people really have New York City or Chicago on the brain so much right now. I think they are starting to. But I think that mainly had to do with the timing of when we launched the survey.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes a lot more sense to me of what kind of drove that number. Because because we have Chicago and New York on there as well, which makes a lot of sense. Boston, Chicago, New York, major marathons here. And I know on the ultra side, Rob, maybe something we're a little bit more familiar with, but UTMB taking the number one, not surprising. But we'll move on because this is something I would like to get into, especially with Elizabeth here. The carbon shoes. I know, Elizabeth, I don't want to say controversial, but a hot button topic, I guess would be a better phrase. Carbon shoes.
Yes.
Are you a carbon shoe wearer?
Yes, and I am. And you know what that's mainly driven by, well, it's two things. I mean, my competition is wearing it. So if they're getting a leg up, I almost have to kind of be on the same even footing, excuse the pun, if you will, with them. And also it's if you want a shoe that's lightweight, so many of them now, they just have carbon fiber plated shoes in them. The shoes I used to race in, they just don't make them anymore. So this is the option for race day shoes. I used to love some of those lighter weight Mizunos, those lighter weight Adidas, like the Adidas Adios, not the Pro, but the original. And these shoes are just no longer in existence. So you go out and you get the carbon fiber plated ones.
Yeah, I know Adidas still makes, and I'm going to say the wrong name, and I have two pair of them, the SLEs. they still utilize the foam, the
Hmm.
super foam, but they don't have the carbon plate. I really like those shoes. I'm guessing that's what a lot of respondents maybe that aren't using the carbon plates use, but 63% of our respondents in the marathon used carbon shoes. So
Hmm.
are you surprised by that? So many? 2/3?
I'm not. I actually kind of thought it would be more. It feels like I go to a race and everyone's wearing them. It just feels like they're just marketed very heavily. Everyone on social media has them, and it's either, this is your race shoe or this is your training shoe. And runners are smart, so they're going to get the shoe for what they're doing. So it's become very pervasive over the past, I want to say, 2 to 3 years. Maybe if we had taken this survey back in 2022, I think maybe you'd see less than half in carbon fiber plated shoes. But really, over the past 3 to 4 years, there's just been an explosion. Every brand has not just one. It used to be every brand would have their one carbon fiber plated shoe. Now all the brands have like two or even three. Like Asics now has three carbon fiber plated shoes. New Balance has two. It's gotten, yeah, Puma has two. It's gotten very pervasive.
Yeah, I know, especially Adidas. They have a plethora of plated shoes, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Yes.
Rob, I know you recently ran an ultra in carbon plated shoes.
I did. Yeah. And I'm still 50-50. I felt like my legs were just destroyed by the end, but I did feel like it gave me a little extra, especially earlier in the race going downhill. But I'm on the fence. Like, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the ultra trail. I have a couple pair of them. It depends on the trail. It's trail specific, a little bit different, Elizabeth. I know Boston Marathon downhill, right? And the super foam and the plates save your legs for sure.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Do you notice more of a difference because it's the downhill pounding saves your legs rather than a flat course where you're just, you know what I mean?
I know. I think it's the opposite. I think the continual downhill will kill your quads.
Yeah.
And so my legs, you know, tend to feel better on a flat course like Houston or Indianapolis, tend to feel much better on a flat course than they do with Boston because the downhills, even if you're a very good downhill runner, that the extent of it will still just beat up your quads. And then to have the Newton hills where you're going uphill, during those miles 17 through 21, that will get you too. I mean, and in switching topics a little bit as to the trail thing, I think a lot of these carbon fiber plated shoes lack stability. So if you're going to be on a trail surface, that's a lot riskier, in terms of the terrain. I would be very careful about wearing carbon fiber plated shoes on a trail. So that's my theory there on why the number is lower.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. The fact that the stability is not there with the super shoe. Like, if I was running a more technical course, my ankle would have been turning at least once a mile. You
Yeah.
know, I definitely had to pay attention to every step, where other races where I don't have the same stack height, the same drop, I felt way more stable just to go. It's interesting. It seems like there's trade-offs. You gain a little, you lose a little, depending on what you're talking about.
And I also think you have to find the shoe that's right for you. It took me two marathons, two big missed opportunities to realize that those Nike Alpha Flies were actually causing my legs more harm than they were giving back to me. They are fast shoes, but just for the way that I run, they caused leg actually cramping early on. We're talking like mile 8, 9. And it didn't do that in training because I wasn't going as fast in them. So lessons learned, run marathon pace in your shoes. But once I kind of ditched those Alpha Flies, and I found that my legs were back to normal and totally fine.
Hey, folks, if you're loving the stories, tips, and laughs we're dishing out, make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And hey, if you've got a second, why not leave us a review? Your feedback helps us improve and keeps this running community growing. Lace up, hit subscribe, and let's get back into the show. Yeah, what you said about stability. I had a pair that I was given to try from a company. I won't mention the company because it wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
Different shoes for different people, right? And I wore them one time in the trails that I always run, took them off and gave them away. I was like, I will break my leg if I wear these shoes. I just, weren't for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why like the Nike Alpha Fly is an amazing shoe. You see people running really fast. It's got a great reputation. It just depends on how you run, what your gait is, and what shoe will work for you.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to reiterate that, Elizabeth, something that works for you or doesn't work for you is going to be completely different from me or
Yeah.
Raul. Like we're not saying the shoe is bad,
Mm.
or something is you know, it's what works for you. And it's
Yes.
yeah. Because some people get defensive. Oh, that shoe's the great. It's like that might be
Mm.
your greatest shoe,
Mhm.
maybe not my greatest shoe. So
That's right.
very good point to reiterate. Still staying on the carbon shoe topic here. Really wanted to get your take on. I might have a little bit of I guess, a bad take or hot take here.
Mhm.
Which brands own race day? Nike, maybe not the best advertising campaign for the Boston Marathon.
Right.
A little bit of hot water there. I
Mhm.
understood what they were trying to say, and I actually don't disagree with them. I think there should be a space for everyone, whether you're want to run fast or slow or whatever. But I'm excited to get your take on that controversy. You being so many times at Boston. What did you think of it? Were you jumping on the hate bandwagon or?
Well, for the listeners who may not be familiar, let's just clarify that you're talking about that big sign that they had on their store that said runners welcome, walkers tolerated. Was that what it said?
Yeah, I was glad you said that because I wasn't 100% sure what it said.
Mhm.
I knew
Okay.
it was walkers tolerated. I couldn't remember.
Walkers, yeah. And I mean, yeah, I guess, from I'm a chief marketing officer is my day job, right? So you never as a brand want to like alienate people, but you also do want to be provocative and you do want to say something that's going to get your name out there. And kind of as a marketer at the end of the day, all PR is good PR.
Mhm.
And you might have some people hating on it saying, I'm never wearing Nike and I'm going to burn my Nikes. But they do that for like it's the 10 seconds of outrage, and then they're just going to go back to wearing Nike if they like Nike.
Yeah.
I do think it was probably in poor taste. If I was the CMO of Nike, I wouldn't have gone that way. But at the same time, I think the internet just really likes to have outrage cycles, and they like to be the first one to get mad at something and to cancel something. So Nike was perfect fodder for that.
Yeah. And if you want to, as I'm sure in marketing, if you want to sell to the faster runner, I think it's okay for them to want to do that. Like
Yeah.
I didn't take I'm a hobby jogger. I can't qualify for Boston, and I didn't care that they did it. I don't like them for other reasons, but I had certainly had nothing to do with that. If I were them, I would have actually leaned into it, I think. And yeah, this is for, we make the Alpha Fly, the Vaporfly shoe, and we do that for runners, not for people to walk in.
Yeah.
People love to hate on the category king too. They're the 10,000-pound gorilla. So any chance that people can get to hate on them, they'll take it.
Yeah, they sure do. They were not the 10,000-pound gorilla in this group, though. They were tied
True.
with Saucony and not far ahead of Brooks, which also surprises me a little bit. Adidas not making the list here, Elizabeth. I thought that was especially after Boston.
Hmm.
They have so many names. The Adizero Evo $600 shoe that set
Yeah.
set the world record. Won Boston, first, second in Boston, I think, for men and women, I believe. Did you run in the $600 shoe?
I did not. I ran in like I think a shoe that I got on sale for like 200 that had been 250. I ran in years in the Adidas Adios Pro 2, and I thought that was the best carbon fiber plated shoe for me. And I set many a PR in that shoe. But then they came out with the 3. It wasn't quite as good for me. Everyone that I know personally says that there's a problem with the fit, and that was my experience as well. It's either too big or it's too small, or the toe box is too small, or something like that. Once again, based on my small sample size of people that I've spoken to, that could really have hurt them in the carbon fiber plate category, making their Adios Pro 4, which is their most current model, not as popular. They also haven't come out with a new, I mean, I think the Adios Pro 4 came out over a year ago, whereas you have these newer models coming out once a year with an upgrade to their carbon fiber plated shoes.
Yeah, and I really like the Adios Pro line of shoes. I had the 2 as well. I really like that. That's what I set my marathon PR in as well. I wish I would have got a couple pair of them back when they were
Yeah.
still being made, which I usually do that. But yeah, I was, and then the new one, right? now that we're going to talk about this,
Yes.
the new one, the $600 shoe, isn't a plate. It's like I don't even know, like a disc around like the outside or something to cut down on weight because it's only like it's 4 ounces or 4.5 ounces, I think. But pretty incredible technology that they're dumping into these shoes.
I know, like weighs about the same as a Kleenex or something like that.
Yeah, something
It's like
insane.
it's like nothing.
Yeah.
I would be, I would maybe be at my level kind of afraid to run in something so light that just doesn't have a lot of support or cushion over a marathon. I feel like when you get into that, that's sort of the same echelon of shoe as like that Puma Fast R that's also very unstable, very light. You're having this new tier emerge that's like a super duper shoe versus just a super shoe. um,
Yeah.
that's that to me it's just not worth the risk of the instability to have it weigh, like half an ounce less or something.
And there's also a lot of boxes you can check off to get better at. Like you can increase volume, your diet can be better. There's a bunch of other things you can do before spending $600 on some, UFO technology shoe, I think.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I raced in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, which is the
Okay.
first time I've ever raced a marathon in Saucony out of 40 marathons. That was my first Saucony.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you like about the Saucony shoe, and will you continue to wear it?
I think so. As of right now, I plan to. I like that it is comfortable and mainly that it's trustworthy. I can trust that it's not going to make my legs cramp or fatigue, the same way that the Nike did with just my stride. Because when I wore the Adidas Adios Pro 2 for many years, I just knew that my legs were going to feel good and that the shoe was not going to cause any problems. And the Saucony has a wonderful fit. It's got a great ride. It's comfortable, and it's not. I would say it's maybe not as sexy or doesn't have the bells and whistles of some of these other ones, but it's very reliable and it can do what I want it to do. And at the end of the day, that's really what's most important.
Yeah, that's super important that when you know, put on a shoe, you just know what it is. You can just go out and get your run in. You're not worried about it and how to lace it and, the lockdown, everything like that. So I certainly understand that. And, certainly have that to a degree with Adidas and Hoka. So yeah, I get it. Do you think like hobby joggers like me tie their usage of shoes into what the pros are wearing? Do you see that a lot?
Not as much, and I really don't think you should. I feel like a pro runner is just a totally irrelevant comparison to what your sort of everyday hobby jogger or like amateur runner would wear. It could just be that Adidas has a lot of great marketing, or maybe people are planning on wearing that Evo SL. I mean, I can't imagine people are going to sign up to. A lot of people are going to be getting those $600 shoes.
I would think not, but
Yeah.
people,
Yeah, I would think maybe more of that's coming from the Evo SL and that shoe really gaining traction. I mean, another way that you know that it's gained traction is, they released it and now you go on their website and you can get it in like 30 different colors, right? So that's one indication that it's popular is that they felt like they could release 30 different colors and have it still sell.
I wanted to get the Bob Marley themed color scheme. So yeah, I like what they're doing with that. Rob, do you have plans to wear any other plated shoes that you're looking at?
Not yet. No. I mean, I think for me, just like most of the hobby joggers out there, the cost. I mean, that's really what kept me away for the longest time. Just the price is so high, man. I mean, shoes in general, running shoes are getting higher and higher in cost. But the
Yeah.
super shoe, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Especially in what we do, trails, it's a tough sell for me.
Yeah, we're old, man. We're not going to break any records.
Yeah, we're just trying not to break. That's what we're trying to
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
But sometimes it's just fun. I mean, if it is your hobby, then
Yeah.
why not get, other hobbies, if you're like, I don't know, if you're crocheting, you might want just a fun, different kind of needle. I don't know anything about crocheting, but it's even if it's not, you're not spending the money necessarily to get the speed out of it, but it's just, you want it's your hobby. You
Yeah.
spend money on it.
Yeah, and we spend plenty on this hobby that's supposed to be cheap. So
Oh,
Right.
I do have 20 pairs of running shoes. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, you're dead on there, Elizabeth. Yeah, why not spend it? Like it is your hobby. You got the shorts, you got the shirt, you got the Satisfy Moth Tech shirt, Rob. Might as well have the shoes to go with it,
well,
right?
I don't.
I don't have it yet. It's coming. It's in the works. On to again, this one is super specific to the person. Runners, what they use and trust to fuel their race. And the brands here are going to be super specific to you, trying out different things. Number one on the types, gels, not a surprise. Morton with a big presence at this year's Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
What did you use at Boston, Elizabeth?
I used a combination of, get ready for it, UCAN, Morton, Honey Stinger Chews, and Scratch Labs.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yes, I have it down to a science. I would say the majority of my gels were Morton gels. Most of them regular and one caffeinated. The UCAN was primarily used right before the race to get in extra carbs while keeping my blood sugar steady. But once I got going, the Morton was a really good injection. I use the Honey Stinger chews intermittently because sometimes my body doesn't want to digest the gels, but the chews always seem to go down well. And then the Scratch Labs hydration in my bottle was primarily it's my preferred electrolyte mix, but it also has carbs in it as well.
Now, how do you handle the logistics of taking the drink mix with you, Elizabeth? Because, the pros get their little bottle at the table,
Yeah.
which is very nice for them. We all wish we got that same service. I did get to stand there and watch it. It was pretty interesting to see what all they did. But how do you handle the logistics of taking the drink mix with you? Because I know you're probably not wearing a vest, right?
No, I just hold it in my hand, which a lot of people who I interact with on social media, they see that I'm racing with this huge handheld and they're like, "How do you hold that?" And I just train with it because I don't like wearing a hydration vest or a belt. I don't want anything like on my body. And I've been carrying the same type of bottle for many years and I'm just used to it. And I don't carry it for the whole way. It's just so that I can make sure that early, you want to get your hydration in early. And I want to make sure that I get enough hydration in during that first hour. So usually I'll carry it for the first hour to hour and a half. And then after that, I'll rely on the water stations.
Yeah. I know I've started out a few races with a handheld, even though I have the best, because you have 11 miles to an aid station or something. So yeah,
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. I didn't see a lot of people doing that. I believe a friend of the show, Mr. William Walmsley, started out with a handheld. I'll have to ask him what he did with it, if it's laying on the street in Boston somewhere, or if he just put it in his shorts. I don't know. But yeah, the drink mix starting to become very popular. I know.
Yeah.
38.5% of our respondents do use a drink mix of some sort. Yeah, 80% of users using gels. That's no surprise, I don't think.
Yeah.
No Whole Foods on the course for Boston, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably more of the ultra running crowd. Candy and Sweet's pretty easy to carry. But yeah, gels being the clear number one. Yeah, really good to see Morton out there. Did they have
Yeah.
the caffeinated gel on the course?
They did. You would run through and then it would be sort of like, here's your water, here's your Gatorade, here's your non-calf, here's your with calf. So they did it similar to how it would, you would have a water station. So I brought my own Morton gels with me, but I'm never going to turn away free Morton. So I made sure that I ended with just as many as I brought.
Yeah, I was wondering because if you're not used to the caffeinated, that can really have a negative effect on you on race day, I would think. So
Yes, I only take one of them and I take it about 2 hours into the race.
got it. Yeah, one of the first ones I did an ultra, I had a caffeinated one before the beginning of the race. Not a good idea to do that. I found out
Yeah.
a lot of caffeine in those. Yeah, Rob, don't eat the caffeinated gel before the race. Turns out.
No, I stick to just plain coffee, man. It's a little safer. And honestly, I'm so surprised Whole Foods beat Candy and Sweets.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that too.
Yeah, we know the reality of what that looks like, but I mean, if you're not familiar with it, you picture somebody with a sweet potato, like, running past the aid station. There's a Whole Food,
Yeah,
chowing down on some broccoli or something. Yeah.
Burger
yeah.
and fries.
Yeah, I could stop at one of the bars, the pubs along the way there, get an order of fries would be, yeah, Whole Foods. And then all the brands that you listed, never second making the list. That's what I'm a fan of. the gels and drinks. The next one, how closely do runners stick to their fueling plan?
Mm.
Yeah, I was maybe not surprised by this, that almost half of respondents are just somewhat, they make small adjustments, which means you deviate from the
Yes.
plan. I'm guessing, Elizabeth, just from talking to you, you probably pretty closely stay on your plan, right?
I do. And actually, the faster I'm running, the harder it is to stay on plan because the more you're exerting yourself and the more you're able to exert yourself, the less your digestive system wants to work. So when I've had races where I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't run to my full potential, all the fuel goes down perfectly and on time. Whenever I've set like a PR and I'm like running my guts out, literally, it's very hard for me to get the fuel in. My body just kind of rejects it. So there's the irony for you.
Yeah, I agree with that
Mm.
because I think just you're under stress and body's trying to survive, not to eat. I don't, fully understand the biomechanisms there, Rob, but it makes sense to me. We also have 6% who just don't follow a fueling plan. That's our friend Grace Myers, for sure, her, and 9.5% that loosely follow it. So I think there's probably a lot of room there rather than maybe using the $600 carbon shoes, Elizabeth, that maybe people maybe stick a little bit closer to the plan. What do you think?
That's right. I think they should try to. It's also they need to be practicing it in training. I think a lot of people don't realize that you need to fuel. On race day, I'll that's when I'll have my 5 gels, but for training, I'll only have one. I think there's a benefit to not always having 5 gels, in your long runs, but you need to do it several times at least just to acclimate your digestive system to it.
Yeah, and I'm certainly bad at not doing that as much as I should. I know
Yeah.
I should do more. I don't. I just I'm at mile 16. I got 4 more to go. I don't need to eat anything. This next one of my favorites to talk about, the pacing.
Mm.
Only 14.7% had strict pace targets. So, going through splits at whatever their time was. And then overwhelming majority, 50%, that their general pace range, that they plan to stay within a pace range. So that's pretty good. 2.8% full send, just whatever happens, happens. I like those people, just cowboys living on the edge or cowgirls living on the edge. How do you, and I just by talking to you, I'm kind of sure I know,
Uh-huh.
how do you go about your race planning strategy?
I usually have a rough idea of where I want to be. And sometimes, depending on the race, I'll be more conservative with it. Sometimes I'll be more aggressive. Sometimes I'm more likely to take risks. Sometimes I'm less likely. I usually don't fly blind. I usually do like to kind of monitor my pace on my Garmin. I'm not staring at it throughout the whole race, but I do like to kind of check in and know where I'm at and be pretty close to what I plan for. I do realize though that I feel like sometimes that does limit me. Like I actually kind of think I maybe could have run Boston a little bit faster if I had been less rigid about my strategy and maybe just gunned it a little bit harder in the first half. But once again, you never know. Every race is a learning experience.
Yeah, for sure. And that's really the best way is learning. Curious, and on your Garmin,
Yeah.
what do you have the settings to? What do you show on your watch?
I love this conversation. I'm such a data nerd. So I have it rotating between two different screens.
Okay.
And on one screen is,
Wait, does it automatically rotate or do you have to touch it?
it's called auto scroll.
I need to look into this. Okay.
Okay, so it auto scrolls at a medium pace. So it will display one screen for 2, maybe 3 seconds, then we'll go to the other. So it rotates between two screens. So if ever I look down at my Garmin, I'll see one of two screens. One of those screens is my lap pace. So that's the pace that I'm in per mile. So if I'm halfway through a mile and it says 7:30, that means I've run the first half of that mile at a 7:30 pace. And if my target for that mile is 7:30, then I just keep running. If I would actually like to be running a 7:20 pace, but at halfway it says your lap pace is 7:30, I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit slow. So I have that shown. It's the only piece of data on the screen. It's my lap pace. That's my main thing. I want to know how fast my current mile is and what I'm on track to be running. And then the other screen, kind of in the middle, the biggest piece of data is the elapsed time. How much time have I been running?
Okay.
And that can be super motivating as I kind of come to the end and I can calculate maybe where I'm going to finish. And then in a smaller number on top of that elapsed time is the total distance that I've run. So I know my total distance, my total time, and then the average pace of the entire run. So I can see that, which is more that's more for kind of informational purposes only because that's a big kind of a big picture view. But those are my two. So it's really 4 data points on 2 screens that automatically rotate back and forth.
No heart rate?
Nope, I don't look at that until after I'm done because I used to always train by heart rate and I was very rigid about it. But then I did that for 5 years. I started to know, okay, I know what zone 2 feels like. I know what zone 3 feels like. I don't need a heart rate monitor to kind of know what zone I'm in. So I graduated to just not showing that and then looking at it afterward.
I think I might start doing that. 'Cause yeah, I know where I need to be. And it just kind of, I think probably, especially in a race like Boston, you're excited at the start line, right? Like it's
Yes.
a lot of excitement. If you look at your heart rate, it's probably not going to be accurate to your actual effort level.
Yes.
So no reason to have it displayed. And you run enough, you know what your effort level is and how you feel. So
Yes. But I do recommend, newer runners get their VO2 max zones, know what your heart rate zones are, train in those zones. That's very, very useful if you're kind of just starting out and trying to get a feel for how hard you should be training.
yeah, for sure. This is just, talking the race day.
Yes.
So no one's confused here. And really
Oh, yeah.
what it is for me is just because the excitement of the start line, things
Hmm.
are going to be different. Like, there's a lot going on. It's not just you going out in the morning by yourself on like the nice, quiet trail or wherever you run. And, it's a little bit different race day to just a regular run. So I
Yeah.
get why you kind of don't use that. Makes sense.
Hmm.
Rob, what do you have on yours?
Just regular Strava run.
Oh,
That's it.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking at my pace. I have the heart rate on there. I don't think I pay attention to my heart rate during a race. During training, I do. But yeah, not so much during the race. So, Elizabeth, do you have like a plan A, B, and C? Like
I always
for
do. I
yeah,
have like
yeah.
my
I've
A
talked to
goal.
runners
Yes.
before, and they say, well, if I wake up and the weather's perfect and I'm feeling good and I had enough sleep, and then that's plan A all day long as far as what pace I want to hit and what my goal is. But if one of those things are off, then I'm going to move to plan B. And then if things fall apart and I still want to finish like we all do, then I'm rocking plan C. I mean, so what does that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll usually have like I'll just I won't necessarily call it plans, but I'll call it goals, like A goal, B goal, C goal, D goal. Usually the D goal is just to finish healthy, knowing that that's really the most important thing. And the A goal will be, aggressive, either a PR or a course PR or like something like that, or just, something that's fast for where I think my fitness is. And then I'll just kind of tear it down from there. But I like to have a a plan B, C, and D that's going to make me feel like when I finish the run, I've achieved something. Because mentally, it's really hard. It's really difficult if you end the race thinking that you just totally failed it, you didn't gain anything. You always want to come away with something positive.
Yeah. And it's very nice to have confidence after I could have gone faster. I could have had I felt like I could have had a better, like you want to have that rather than, moonwalking across the finish line
Mm.
in zombie mode and like feeling defeated, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That brings us to the most common race day mistakes. I was not at all surprised at the most common, which 37% of runners starting too fast,
Mm,
Elizabeth. Uh,
yeah.
I thought this number was kind of low. What did you think?
Mhm. I think, yeah, I kind of thought it was too low too. I mean, I think, well, let me back up. I think that the respondents here seem to be pretty sophisticated. If they're running Boston, they're probably pretty experienced. So if you kind of have more of a beginner, newer runner crowd, you might then see them starting out too fast. But I think the more experienced runners tend to not make that mistake as often.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and yeah, makes a lot of sense. I know in the ultra world, the carnage is just Yeah, there's a lot of carnage at some of these races where you'll go by people at, pretty early sometimes that are just not having a good day, and it's generally went out a little too fast. I do like I like what one of the quotes here is, felt good early and paid for it later. Like,
Yeah.
if you feel good early, that's good. That's where we want you to be. Just, we want you to stay to your pace and what your game plan was, right? Like, if you're feeling bad, yeah, obviously don't. But like, if you're good, like, that's okay. We're gonna have a good day. Let's maybe not blow up today. But it seems that there's a lot of blowing up. Yeah, 37.7%. Rob, you ever gone out too fast?
I typically do, unfortunately. I mean, it's super common. I'll look down at my watch and like, what am I doing? It's only mile 3. Like, I need to slow down. And I do pay for it. And typically there's a bit of a lull and then slowly build back up to where I want to be by like mile 6, mile 7. But no, I'm guilty of it almost every single race. By the third mile, I look down and I'm
Mhm.
just cruising way too fast.
Because you feel good.
I do? Yeah.
Which is good because you've done all this work to get to this point. You fueled properly. You've ate the night before, hopefully slept, and now you feel good. So that's, let's try not to do that. Elizabeth, I know you're very experienced. You're sticking to the plan like me. The absolute last thing I want to do is blow up and have a miserable time out there. So
Yeah.
maybe I start out too slow sometimes, but how do you handle it? Like, because you've run Boston a bunch of times.
Yes.
So you've been there, done that, you're a pro at this point. Like, how did you starting out, I guess, 2005 Elizabeth, we
Yes.
should talk about, because experience is what's going to stop that from happening, like you said.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, 2005, Elizabeth was very, very conservative. I would negative split like every race because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to complete it. So it wasn't until I had like 7 or 8 marathons under my belt that I, didn't start off at like my snail's pace.
Okay.
But I will say with Boston, every time I had run Boston, I think like the 5 times before that I had run it, every time was a huge like positive split. Like I would get to the Newton Hills, my legs would be trashed, and I would have this big slowdown after. But the last 5 miles of the course are a net downhill. I've never been able to take advantage of it. So this year, my main goal was to feel good and to take advantage of those last 5 miles. And I did that. And I was able to feel really strong. And it was my first time in Boston. But then, of course, in retrospect, now I'm like, well, maybe I just went out too slowly. I think that's part of being a runner. You're always going to question yourself because I went out saying, okay, I'm going to go out conservatively. And then I ran maybe like, I don't know, I ran like 40 seconds slower than my goal time. And then I'm like, I should have gone out faster. So you never know. But I think this was a great Boston for me in terms of now I know I can run Boston without slowing down at the end. And so now maybe next time I run it, I can be a little bit more aggressive, knowing that it's within me to actually be strong for the entire race.
Got it. So you kind of answered my question that I was going to ask you. How did you get over that mentality, I guess, of just wanting to start out very slow and then, negative split, where now it's like, okay, I'm going to go out and take a chance. Because I think I kind of have a hard, because I just don't want to be out there miserable is really it
Yes.
for me.
Yeah.
But like last year at the Fall Classic Laurel Highlands, I got to the end. I was like, wow, I really feel really good after this. I could have done so much more. And that's fine. At least I feel good. I can, so it's hard for me to get over that mental block of being able to push myself. But maybe one day I'll get there.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, one time before I had broken 130 in the half marathon, I was trying to break 130. And so I went out with the 130 pacer, not sure if I was capable of it. And he took us out just a little bit too fast. And I ended up running like a 131.50. So I was like 2 minutes too slow. And at the end of it, I'm like, okay, look, if I hadn't run with that pacer, maybe I could have run 130 and change. But I
Hmm.
know I couldn't have run under 130. But I was happy that I took the chance. I was glad that I at least went for it because otherwise, at least now I know.
Yeah. Yeah. At least now you learned and, you have a ton of experience. So the more experience you have, the better you get at these things. Yeah. This whole thing here was very interesting, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And kind of to wrap it up here, what were, I guess, some things that uh, you found the most informative here, or that you think people can maybe improve or how to improve?
I mean, there weren't too many big surprises, but I think that, the common pattern that we see is that people, in terms of their pacing and their race day, everyone realizes that you can't know exactly how it's going to go. It's always going to be a little bit of an unknown. So I think these responses indicate everyone's just trying to give themselves the best opportunity for success. And the more they race, the more they'll know what that is. But it's never going to be perfect. I don't think you can ever run a race and just say that, like, I absolutely ran the perfect race. I couldn't have squeezed one more second. I think, but I think that's, as I said earlier, I think that's really what makes us runners, is that we always want to push to that next level. We always want to go, be better and push. And I love that about the running community. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of runners who are just motivated to set up race day to make themselves successful. And there's going to be a mixed bag, right? There's going to be a few that are like, I'm not going to plan it out. I'm just going to go with the flow, and that's how I do my best. It's just whatever the day gives me, it gives me. Some are going to be very precise in their race day prep. So it's gonna run the gamut. But I think overall, you're going to see just a really motivated group of people trying to get out there and see what they can do.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, Elizabeth, do you recover with a beer or not? Because that was a question on here. Are you a beer drinker afterwards?
I will drink beer in the evening, not like immediately after, like when they hand you a beer. I'll usually say no unless it's that like St. Patrick's Day race, and then in that case you have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But usually, yeah, I do like beer, and so I'll have a beer with dinner that evening. I just need like a few hours before I go there.
Yeah. Only 21% of people drink one after. Rob, where do you fall in that?
Oh, yeah, of course I want a beer after the race. Yeah, that's a must for me. And it tastes probably the best after a
It
race.
does.
And you feel like you really earned it at that point. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out and run crazy mileage afterwards, have a beer or two, you earned it.
Yeah. I've got mine cracked before I sit in the chair. So I am in the 21%. 40% of people no drink. Okay. 37.7 sometimes. Yeah. A little surprised by that. I guess, maybe my friends aren't the greatest recoverers out there. So I have a skewed sense of what is going on out in the running world. But yeah, 21%. Wow, only 21%, man.
We should not be running coaches, Casey. We're kind of a bad influence.
No, Rob, that's pretty clear at this point that we should not be running coaches. But Elizabeth, thank you so much for doing this with us. Thank you so much for doing this episode. It was great to see you at Boston, even though you didn't stop and say hello to me.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was so rude of you. But yeah, it was awesome to see you. I think it was like mile 20, we'll say between 22 and 24 somewhere. So yeah, you looked really good, looked strong. Yeah, I was happy to see you out there and crushing it. So
Awesome.
appreciate the time. Rob, thank you very much for buying a new laptop so your audio sounds much better.
You're welcome. So Elizabeth, where can our listeners find you?
On Instagram, at Elizabeth Clore, that's Elizabeth Clor, or my blog, which has very detailed race reports, at www.elizabethclore.com.
Thank you very much again, Elizabeth. We certainly appreciate your time and look to see you out there maybe next year at Boston. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hobby Jogger. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support keeps us moving forward. Until next time, keep those feet moving and enjoy the miles.